One of the most asked questions in the comments of Axiom Amnesia's R. Kelly videos is how did R. Kelly write all of those songs if he can't read, write, or do math? If you haven't seen our other R. Kelly videos, they're linked in the description and at the end of this video. Be sure you're subscribed and have the bell clicked for immediate notifications of our new videos. So now let's talk about how R. Kelly managed to write smash hits like I Believe I Can Fly, Bump and Grind, Down Low, Fiesta, Ignition Remix, and others without ever putting pen to paper, without knowing how to read or write. There have long been whispers that R. Kelly was illiterate. His former girlfriends talked about him having trouble reading and even trying to help him learn to read. Wendy Williams broke down in tears on her show, discussing conversations with R. Kelly about the fact that he can't read, write, or do math.
I can't understand not knowing how to read, write, or add, and I don't understand parents who unleash their kids.
But the most compelling confession comes from R. Kelly himself. In his 2012 autobiography Solar Coaster, The Diary of Me, R. Kelly talks in detail about his learning disabilities and explained that reading was tough for him. In his 2018 song, I Admit, R. Kelly reiterates his literacy troubles. I admit I can't spell for shit. I admit that all I hear is hits.
I admit I couldn't read the teleprompter when the Grammys asked me to present.
And later in the song, he confesses that he has dyslexia. That without knowing I signed my publishing away, I admit I was young and caught up and so blind.
Said I had dyslexia, couldn't read all the contracts, yeah. And now the truth in this message is I'm a broke-ass legend.
We go in depth about whether R. Kelly really owns his publishing in a previous video, which we've linked in the description, so we won't cover that aspect in this video. Nevertheless, as we can see, it's pretty clear that R. Kelly has some serious problems with reading and writing, but he's not alone. According to proliteracy.org, 36 million Americans cannot read, write, or do math above a third grade level. That's 1 in 7 adults in the US. And this means we all know someone who can't read, write, or do math well. There are friends, family, co-workers, and others we encounter in our everyday lives. Given this, it's really not surprising that someone like R. Kelly, who admittedly has a language-based learning disability, dyslexia, and didn't have the resources available to help him, would become one of the 1 in 7 adults who can't read or write well in the US. According to R. Kelly, he eventually dropped out of Kenwood Academy High School in Chicago after years of trouble reading and other academic problems, not yet having discovered that he was dyslexic. So the question remains, how did R. Kelly, a high school dropout with dyslexia, at the height of his career, manage to arguably write some of the greatest songs of a generation? To understand this, in true Axiom Amnesia fashion, we must move beyond the superficial claims and basic understanding to talk about what life is and has historically been like for people who can't read or write, and how illiterate people managed not only to survive, but thrive without the basic literacy skills that most of us take for granted today. People have called R. Kelly dumb and stupid for not knowing how to read, but that's simply not true when you look at history. Let's be clear, brilliance in many forms has always existed among humanity, regardless of the ability to read and write, including the talent to create songs. Negro spirituals are one of the oldest forms of music popularized by blacks in America. Also known simply as spirituals, the purpose of the music was to impart Christian values of worship, while at the same time lamenting the hardships of slavery.
Lord, I want go to heaven when I die.
These songs were an oral tradition passed by word of mouth, because during slavery, it was illegal for slaves in America to learn to read and write. So the people who wrote these songs couldn't read or write, just like R. Kelly. Not to mention, there were plenty of other people, including slave owners, who couldn't read at that time, yet still composed songs. In later history, after blacks were freed from slavery, we saw that many still couldn't read or write for a variety of reasons. However, this didn't stop the ingenuity and hard work of blacks who became landowners and business owners and entrepreneurs of all sorts, just like R. Kelly did. From the 1890s to the 1960s, many states instituted literacy tests as a means of disenfranchising blacks and other minorities, as whites, many of whom were also illiterate, were exempt from the literacy test requirement. The crazy thing is that these literacy tests weren't even tests on literacy, as they often included trick questions, such that a literate person would also fail the test. Take a look at the type of questions they asked black folks who were simply trying to exercise their right to vote. Questions like, in the space below, draw 3 circles, one inside, engulfed by the other. Say what? It says draw 3 circles, while implying that there should only be 2 circles. This was more like an impossible riddle than a simple test to see if you can read. If you got even one of these trick questions wrong, you failed the test. Despite all that people went through just to vote, there were still plenty of people writing songs back then who were illiterate. If literacy was a requirement to make great music, we wouldn't have had much of the music we had in the first half of the 20th century. But still, exactly how did people like R. Kelly write musical compositions without knowing how to actually read or write? To start with, many people have a misconception of what it actually means to write a song. We all know that a song is made of the lyrics, the words, the lyric melody, the intonation of the lyrics as you sing or say them, and the beat, or the instrumental of the music. Technically, you're a songwriter if you create any one of these parts. Neo explains it well when he talks about Beyoncé's contribution to the song Irreplaceable.
If you listen to my version of Irreplaceable and listen to Beyonce's version of Irreplaceable, it's 2 damn totally different songs with all the harmonies and extra stuff that she put in there. So yeah, I gave her writer's credit because that counts. That's writing.
In R. Kelly's case, he typically creates the majority of the musical composition.
I'm trying to record. I'm in my small damn room in my house in the basement.
So you don't need to know how to actually read or write to compose the instrumental or the beat of the song. No words required here.
Beat.
To, quote, write the lyrics, all you need are words and sounds. If you can speak, you can write lyrics. Simple as that. Take a look at R. Kelly composing lyrics for the remix to Echo on the fly. He's not writing anything down, and the words he's chosen, the lyrics, and the way he's singing the lyrics, the lyric melody, are recorded on the spot. No reading or writing skills required.
Sometimes you gotta talk it out, then you can, you know what I'm saying? Anything to make them leave up out this club, jump off in my lap.
As you can see, R. Kelly can completely write songs without actually documenting the words in writing.
Music stop, lady scream, kills up in here. Music stop, kill. Put that there.
But thanks to technologies like speech-to-text, he could speak the words into his smartphone, and it will transcribe his speech into text. He might have done this to share his lyrics with others for collaborations. He could have just as easily sent a recording snippet or had someone else document the words he composed. Some of your favorite rappers talk about never writing down their lyrics. People like Jay-Z.
I don't write because I used to write when I was young. I would write for hours and hours on end. As I start moving into the streets, I start becoming further and further away from my notebook. So I would memorize these words, and then I would have to run to the house and write them down. And you know, when you do that, you work up your memory, and my memory was getting stronger and stronger. So after a while, I was retaining like 4 or 5 songs at one time.
Biggie, Lil Wayne, and others.
Wayne does this thing that's it's scary and it's unfair. He sits there and, you know, they'll be playing a record and he'll just sit there like this and, you know, kind of be like chilling and might get up and eat some candy and, you know, do whatever he does and then sit and you know, it'll take 40 minutes maybe, if that, maybe sometimes 15, and then he'll do this and go like that and hop up and head right for the booth.
They are songwriters. It's really not that difficult to see how easy it can be for R. Kelly to compose a song without the ability to read or write. We've all seen little kids make up songs and sing them, despite not being able to read well. In fact, R. Kelly said in his autobiography that he heard what would eventually become I Believe I Can Fly in a dream when he was just 8 years old. Imagine if every time someone passed you a note, or you saw an unfamiliar sign, or words scrolled across the TV screen, imagine not being able to immediately know what was being communicated and having to take extra steps to figure it out. People who have trouble reading face constant challenges getting through the day, not to mention the very real economic and social consequences it brings. Not being able to read, write, or do math well is a real hindrance. But just think about how clever you'd have to be in this day and age to get along in life with the handicap of not being able to read or write well, not to mention concealing it from most people. Perhaps the people who have commented or may think that R. Kelly is stupid or dumb simply because he is admittedly illiterate should take all of this into account before making such a sweeping judgment. The genius of songwriting is not in the ability to document the words on paper, but rather the ability to select the perfect words, lyric melody, and music to move the souls of people. If you've ever seen performances of I Believe I Can Fly during graduations, worship services, and other events, it's pretty undeniable how those words, written by R. Kelly, transcended race, time, and even space. After all, I Believe I Can Fly was featured on the soundtrack of the 1996 movie Space Jam. It was genius songwriting. Let us know in the comments if you know someone or if you yourself have struggled with reading or are dyslexic, and how you coped with it. If you're an adult who needs help with reading or writing, please visit proliteracy.org or call them at 315-422-9121 to find adult literacy programs near you. If you haven't seen our other Axiom Amnesia videos on R. Kelly and other topics, please be sure to check the links in the description and at the end of the video. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe and hit the bell for immediate notifications of our next video.